Yeah, for real. And I think we've just got to hop into some of the most mind-boggling news that happened pretty like I think around when we recorded last week, but an even bigger move that happened right after that I think was almost directly tied to this first move. And it's unfortunately going to your brother's favorite team, Amal, the Chicago Bears. So there's two pieces of what the Bears have done, and I think both of them show massive mismanagement. So the first one is the Bears went out and they signed quarterback Andy Dalton, who was a free agent coming from Dallas, former Cincinnati Bengals longtime starter. They signed him to, I believe, a 1 year, $10 million deal, or it was something around that range, right? They went out and they signed Andy Dalton, and as they signed him, um, they actually made the commitment to him being the starting quarterback over the current starting quarterback, Nick Foles, right? So it was a $10 million deal. He could earn up to 13 million, according to Adam Schefter. And then, right, like pretty much like a couple days after that, it was reported that a long time great cornerback for the Chicago Bears and former All Pro cornerback Kyle Fuller was going to be cut, and he got cut. He was sitting on the free agent market for 30 minutes, and then he got picked up by the Broncos literally ASAP, right? And honestly, the way I look at this from a neutral party is I feel like the Bears have just sort of they've royally screwed up their quarterback situation. And I feel like they settled like they already had a Nick Foles on the roster. They went out and got a slightly better Nick Foles while paying Nick Foles more money than Andy Dalton. And I'm gonna assume that Nick Foles is gonna be moved. But the fact is, the way I see it is you traded Andy Dalton for Kyle Fuller. And I don't think the Bears roster as a whole got better. Like if you're looking at like a net positive, net negative, I think their team was a net negative because they brought in Desmond Trufant from the Lions, I believe, to replace Kyle Fuller. Desmond Trufant has never been at the level that Kyle Fuller has ever played at, and Desmond Trufant's also, I mean, frankly, nearing the end of his career. So the way I see it is this is a net negative. You traded an elite cornerback for an average quarterback. And I don't see how that's going to help your team win. And I mean, I guess like if you really think Andy Dalton's that guy, you pay him a pretty cheap contract. And in doing so, you sort of ensure a floor for your team. But if I'm Ryan Pace, the GM for the Chicago Bears, and if I'm Matt Nagy, the head coach, honestly, they're probably the duo that's on the hottest of hot seats when it comes to all coaches and GM duos in the NFL. And I just don't think going out here and getting Andy Dalton is going to be the way and replacing Kyle Fuller in the process. So, like I said, I think their team got as a whole worse. I don't think that's going to help them win a Super Bowl or at the very least save their jobs. So, just as a whole, this move is mind-boggling. It smells of massive mismanagement.
Yeah, so for me, I have similar thoughts to you. I first wanted to start off by saying the Bears, I think, gave a very strong effort and were trending towards the right direction this offseason in the Russell Wilson pursuit. I think their offer was very fair from what I saw. It was two starters out on the defensive side, I would highly assume. And we could also assume, based on these trade rumors and everything, that the two starters were probably Hakeem Hicks and Kyle Fuller, since they were going to cut him. And Hakeem Hicks has been on trade rumors. So let's just assume it's those two guys, Hakeem Hicks and Kyle Fuller, and 3 first-round picks, and I believe a second-round pick as well for Russell Wilson. That's a huge amount of money. That's a huge amount of capital for acquiring Russell Wilson. And the Seahawks, I thought it was a fair offer. I mean, if I was them, I wouldn't accept it because you have Russell Wilson. Why would you want to trade him? I thought it's a fair offer. So if they were looking to trade him, I would accept it. But Seattle Seahawks did the right thing and decided to hold firm, say that they weren't interested. And the Bears said, okay, fine. What I don't like with the Bears is how they responded after not getting him and signing Andy Dalton. I mean, there were better quarterbacks. Honestly, Mitchell Trubisky was there too. You could have probably gotten him for cheaper. Gardner Minshew Minshew with that DeFilippo offense. I thought that would have made a lot
He's
of
already
sense.
better than Andy Dalton,
And
and
I think
I think
he's
he's a
already
better
better
leader.
and I think I'd rather take Minshew than Andy
And
Dalton.
also, one thing, Amal, that's worth noting is that this Bears offensive line is ranked as one of the worst offensive lines in all of football. And almost every single mock draft right now, if you're looking at mock drafts from the media, has the Bears drafting an offensive lineman in the first round, right? And having a guy like Andy Dalton, who, I mean, I guess he's kind of mobile, but like if I were
Nah,
really
he's a
wanted to go
pocket
all in,
quarterback.
I would have
Yeah.
just traded. Yeah, I mean, he's not the most mobile guy. I would have, especially with a bad offensive line. We saw it with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts and how mobility is what made him succeed more than Carson Wentz this season. Andy Dalton has no mobility. I would have frankly traded a pick for Gardner Minshew. It would have been like a sixth, fifth, maybe something around there, fourth, maybe. And I would have been happy with that. And I think that would have been a better use of my resources because I would assume Kyle Fuller wouldn't have left. He wouldn't have been cut and you wouldn't have needed to save that $11 million of cap space for no reason.
Exactly, and I think that's where the mismanagement comes in. And there were even better vets, dude. Tyrod Taylor's. I would take Tyrod. There's just a lot of different players that are out there. I mean, Andy Dalton's not a bad quarterback by any means. The Bears went 8-8 last year. They're probably still going to win 6 to 8 games, maybe even 9 games. You never know with this Bears team. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the Bears defense, right, that carries them all. But losing such a key piece like Kyle Fuller, replacing him with Desmond Trufant. Desmond Trufant's still pretty good. I think if any team signs him, I think it's a pretty good signing. He's not trash by any means, but I mean, you're replacing an all-pro, probably top 5 corner in the league for Desmond Trufant. I think that's where I think you have to pump the brakes a bit. And they also just today they signed Damian Williams, another signing that I don't know if it makes the most sense, especially when David Montgomery came off an incredible year this past year.
With a
So
bad offensive line.
with the bad offensive line, exactly, and he was the bell cow, having having close to 30 carries a game. I mean, it was monstrous. And now they're having Damian Williams, who's gonna eat up some of those carries. I don't know. It's just a bunch of. I think this is a clear sign that the Ryan Pace era is going to end quite shortly. I think it'll be similar to the firing of the Falcons GM Thomas Dimitrov, and I think with a bunch of mismanagement, miscalculations of how to run the team for the future, I think Ryan Pace will be fired, and it wouldn't surprise me if Matt Nagy joins him at the end of the day, because this is just insane. It's crazy to think about this, Reeb. The Matt Nagy was Coach of the Year in 2007 in 2018, and it's crazy how things can change in just a matter of 3 years, and how he can have such a bad reputation as a coach. And I mean, it's incredible what's been happening with this Bears franchise. Allen Robinson, another way of mismanaging the money. He signed the tag $18 million. That's ridiculous, Arif. I mean, it's just really crazy what like everything that's happening
I have
there.
one question for you, Amal. And I think this one question will probably shape the way I think about signing Andy Dalton. And that question is, do you think the Bears are going to draft a quarterback? Because if they did draft a quarterback and if they traded Nick Foles, right, I wouldn't be against this. I mean, obviously, at that point, then you would have traded, a low end starter, a backup quarterback for an all pro cornerback, essentially money wise, in Kyle Fuller and Andy Dalton. But if you brought in Andy Dalton to mentor someone like, I don't know, you trade up somehow, you draft a Trey Lance, or you're sitting at 20, I think they're at 21. You're sitting at 21 and you're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just draft Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M, who I've seen a lot of people giving him first round hype. And honestly, I mean, that's mid to like, I guess, late mid first round. If you want to go for a quarterback at that point, we saw Daniel Jones getting drafted top 6 and Kellen Mond. I mean, I haven't done the scouting. I'm by no means an NFL professional scout, but Kellen Mond to me seems like a better prospect than Daniel Jones. At least he has some mobility to him. So would they trade up? Would they draft somebody? Like, I feel like that might change my mind on this signing.
I agree with that. I could definitely also see a possibility of them drafting in the second. Kellen Mond, I'd be shocked if he gets drafted first round. But I would be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if day 2 they went for a Kellen Mond, like you said, or maybe Kyle Trask, because I think Kyle Trask is likely probably to go in day 2. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Bears went in and draft Kyle Trask. And if that is the case, because Kyle Trask does have that potential. I mean, Drew Lock, we got to see how he is as a day two quarterback and how he's playing in the NFL. I mean, there's definitely still. I mean, you can if he's there's definitely still room for improvement there. But I mean, I think if that was the reasoning for signing Andy Dalton, I mean, I'm okay with it. But then this is just another year to essentially just throw away, in my opinion. And unless unless their new quarterback pulls a Dak Prescott their rookie year and then just carries, it's going to be very difficult to see how this Bears team succeeds in this upcoming season.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I mean, I guess they do have a strong running game, so if they want to follow the
Very
2016
strong. Now
Cowboys,
the running back tandem now I can say is very
mhm,
strong. Of
especially
course,
if they draft someone like a Tevin Jenkins or someone like that in the draft, I can definitely see them going that way. Thanks for listening to this segment of the Flea Flicker NFL show. If you liked it, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Thanks for listening, and peace out. Bye.